Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Come on in the room. Say hello. Get settled. We are here for another segment of Astro Hour. Friends again. I have to give Baby Rose a rest. If you've not already listened to her album, do yourself a favor and carve out the time to listen to her album this week. You will definitely be grateful that you did. Hello, and welcome to another Astro Hour segment. I am Soleil. I am the founder and facilitator of the Charm School Hoodoo Mentorship Program. I am your weekly reader. I am a certified life coach, and I am a dope bitch straight up out of Oakland. Hello, 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 hello. Come on in the room and get settled. Say hi as you come in. If you've been here before, then you know the drill. I try to keep these spaces as interactive as possible. So saying hi lets me know who's here. If you talk to me, I talk back. Hit those scale emojis when you come into the room as well, because the scales do, they give me a little bit of energy. They give me some power. They align with the energy of my name. So hit the scale emoji if you can. We are here for Astro Hour. This is a segment. At one point, I was doing this almost every week, especially back in May when we had a lot of transits being activated. But this is, on average, like a bi-weekly, once a month segment that I do where we look into what's going on with the stars and the planets and the moons and stuff so that we can see what's going on in the world outside of us and figure out how to use that wisdom and information to navigate our individual world, our individual environment, okay? So tonight we are going to be talking about Saturn retrograde. We're also going to be talking about the full moon in Aquarius, okay? Now, even though the Aquarius full moon happens later, that starts on July 29th, I'm going to start first with talking about, I'm going to save Saturn retrograde last, and I'm going to talk about the full moon first, right? Saturn goes retrograde Sunday the 26th, but I have a lot more to say about Saturn's retrograde because it's going to be there for about 5.5 months, right? That's a long ass time. And so I think, I'm not going to say it's more important than the full moon in Aquarius, but because it's going to be with us longer, I think we need to have a much more in-depth discussion of that, right? As always, I have readings for each of these transits. So once I'm done with my explanation and talking about what we should be aware of, what we should be mindful of, what we should incorporate into our spiritual practices, I will give updates, and check in with the audience to see if anybody wants a reading, okay? Again, as always, keep the chat going. Keep the comments going. The more conversation we have, the more interactive this is, the more fun it is for all of us, okay? Hi, Aisha. Thank you so much for joining tonight. It's good to see you. Thank you for always supporting these lives. I appreciate it tremendously. There are 4 other people here as of right now. Hopefully more will join us. I'm saying that because Aisha's not the only one here, but she's the only one that said hi to me. So please, the least you can do, if you're not going to give a love offering, if you're not going to subscribe to the channel, if you're not going to share the video with other people, the very, very least you can do in terms of energetic exchange is say hi. Something that was revealed to me during Mercury's retrograde, which just ended a couple hours, and I'm going to talk about that bitch in a minute. She got on my fucking nerves. This is probably the worst Mercury retrograde I've ever dealt with in my adult life. But part of what I'm trying to get you guys to get more accustomed to is, and y'all may not want to hear this, but less entitlement from your spiritualists and your healers, right? I think it's really easy to just tune into YouTube, feel entitled, think that you're doing someone a favor by tuning in, right? This is an energetic exchange. So just showing up and, leering at a person, even if they've made it very, very clear that they want conversation and dialogue, it's a little weird. I didn't know that I've had to constantly have to explain this to people, that just staring at a person and not engaging is weird. So if you're here and you're in the room and you're watching, say hi. It literally takes what, 4.5 seconds to type a hello and hit send. So say hello. Like, let it be an interactive space. Okay? Oh, I see you guys are not going to actually listen to me. Let me go ahead and get into this breakdown, child, before I start cussing and shit. Oh yeah, Mercury retrograde tested me literally up until it exited, up until it went direct. Like, I've had to curse people out and set boundaries so much these last few weeks, literally as recently as 3 p.m. today. So if you, like me, have had to deal with a lot of boundary setting, have a lot of revelation around entitlements and how people's projections onto you creates entitlements, God bless you, because that was a heavy lesson for me. Very, very heavy lesson for me. Let's go ahead and get into this full moon in Aquarius conversation. Okay? Hi, Dulcinea. Look at you and your manners. Hello, Dulcinea. Thank you so much for coming into the room and saying hello. So let's start with the full moon. Okay? We're on July 29th, which, if I'm not mistaken, I believe is a Wednesday. We have, I'm going to text you once I'm done with the live. I'm sorry to hear that. It may be some impact around Mercury going direct. I've had a tough day too. I've had a tough last couple days, actually. So I will definitely make it a point to check in with you one-on-one, Dulcinea. Hey, Tashana, thank you for joining. So again, on July 29th, we are dealing with a full moon in Aquarius, okay? And for me, as I was looking over this particular transit, one of the main things that came up for me is that this is a time where we get to release who we thought we were supposed to be, right? Any misconceptions, any old, outdated understandings of who we thought we were supposed to be, the full moon in Aquarius is asking us to release that, right? And to embrace who it is we're meant to be, right? This is about being authentic, being in attunement with ourselves, and not being burdened by the projections, the misrepresentations, or the unnecessary standards of other people, okay? So some of the core themes we're going to be dealing with up and around the full moon in Aquarius on the 29th are freedom, community, again, authenticity, vision, right? Because Aquarius is the sign of higher vision, as well as collective healing. So the ways in which either your personal healing or your refusal to heal has an impact on your direct environment, your collective community. Those are all things that are going to be coming to the surface once we get closer to this full moon in Aquarius, okay? Now, not only are we dealing with a full moon in Aquarius, we're dealing with a full moon during Leo season. Oh, happy Leo season. It's officially been about 48 hours of Leo season. Happy Leo season. If you have Leo prominent in your chart, I'm a Leo rising. Shout out to you, okay? So there is going to be a little bit of a tension between our individual identity, because fire signs are very much about their individuality, and the collective responsibility, right? Again, Aquarians are very much rooted in collective, and they're the humanitarians, right? So they, even though they like care and don't care about the collective, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit later, okay? So I think one of the really important questions that we should be asking ourselves leading up to the 29th and in the day or so after the 29th is, have we ever felt like we've outgrown certain people, certain beliefs, or just roles that once defined us, right? If there are roles, expectations that once were really an intimate part of our identity, but they no longer fit, this is going to be highlighted and brought to the surface with this full moon in Aquarius that is taking place during Leo season, okay? Now, I think everybody here is familiar with the full moon. Most of you guys are into astrology, even outside of these conversations. But I just want to repeat and reiterate for those who may not be familiar. Whenever we are dealing with a full moon, traditionally, we are dealing with the energy of illumination. So, what is being illuminated and brought to the surface under the light of the full moon, right? It's an energy of culmination, things coming to completion. It's also a time of release. What do we want to let go of to make room for in our lives over this next 28-day cycle, right? It's also an energy of harvest. What are we collecting? What has come into bloom from the previous lunation, right? Full moons are specifically meant to provide emotional clarity. So those are some of the things that full moons in general do. But when we are dealing with an Aquarius full moon, this is a moon that is meant to shine light on where we have outgrown old ways of belonging. Where have we outgrown old ways of belonging, right? And that can literally be, what are the spaces where you feel like you no longer belong? Or what are the identities that no longer feel comfortable to you, feel itchy, feel scratchy, feel foreign, right? So, and I just did it, but we do this a lot. A lot of people do it, and it's really easy to say that Aquarians are about authenticity. They kind of are, but it's not that simple. Aquarians are it. It can be authenticity at time, but at the root, at its heart, it's about rebellion. Okay, Aquarians are very much about, hey, Adelaida, thank you so much for joining tonight. Again, as you come into the room, say hello. Talk to me, I talk back. I want this to be an interactive space. Aquarians are about rebellion at their core. Hey, Alazone, oh my God, my baby's here. So many people think that Aquarians or Aquarius are just simply dedicated to being different or standing out, right? And I can see how that's interpreted, because typically we think that when people are rebellious, that they are that way because they just want to be different. They want to stand out, right? It's not that simple, right? Aquariuses are very much about being connected to a purpose, living in accordance with a system of values. And a lot of times when you move that way, you have to rebel against the status quo. So it's really easy to interpret them as just wanting to be different or wanting to take up attention. That's a shadow expression of Aquarius, right? So whenever we have a moon placement or a moon transit that deals with Aquarius energy, we should be asking ourselves, am I being true to myself? Am I living in accordance with my own personal values? Am I connected to my purpose, or am I just following the crowd? Am I following the status quo, right? I don't know how many of you guys watch the Joe Budden podcast, but I think of Damona, because I know she's an Aquarius, right? And I've been following her since she was doing her, and she still does her own podcast, Don't Call Me White Girl, but I feel like she's a quintessential Aquarius, right? She is so unafraid to say something that she knows other people in the room are going to be scandalized by or not understand. It's almost like it's in her DNA to fight for the underdog. That's a very Aquarius kind of energy, right? Now, there's a difference between rebelling for attention, because some people, especially a debilitated or a shadow, an Aquarius that has a lot of shadows, may be somebody who just rebels for attention, right? But there's a difference between rebelling for attention and choosing authenticity, even when it feels uncomfortable, right? And that's why I use Mona as an example. Mona will sit there in front of all those men, only woman in the room, and say some of the wildest shit. And she does not care that they look at her like she's crazy, right? So where have you been shrinking in order to be part of a group? Where have you been shrinking in order to fit in? Where have you made yourself smaller or gone against your own standards or your own purpose in order to make those around you comfortable? Yes, Mona is very Aquarius. I love her down. I really do. I love Aquarius women, but I get on their nerves. And that's something that I can admit. I love Aquarius women, but I irritate the shit out of them. So yeah, this is an energy that is really calling us to confront the balance between me, again, that personal identity with this being Leo season, and the we, which Aquarius is the sign of the humanitarian and the collective, right? Leo is emphasizing personal creativity, our leadership, right? Again, Leo is the sign of bravery. It's courage, confidence, our self-expression. Whereas Aquarius is here to remind us that no one succeeds completely alone. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody says. No one who is successful got that way in isolation. Okay? And Aquarius reminds us of that. They remind us that community matters. They remind us that healthy interdependence is a strength. It is not a weakness, right? Another Aquarius woman, Megan Thee Stallion. I know that at one point people judged her a lot because they were like, damn, is this bitch ever going to be alone? Right? Because Megan don't go nowhere without a team. Megan always got a circle of people and a collective around her. But that's a very Aquarius vibe, right? Because they understand that interdependence is a strength. Community is a strength, right? If you guys did not watch the What About Your Friends segment that I did on Tuesday, it is not normal to be an adult and not have friends. You don't have to have 8,000 friends. You don't have to have, a football team of friends, but you should have a little collective of people that you can go to, right? A little community that you can lean on. And that is something that Aquarius is really here to teach us, right? So this is a really important time to reflect and ask yourself, who pours into me, right? And if you don't have anybody pouring into you, you got to start making that a priority. And Aquarius is going to bring that to the surface, right? The other question is really important, and what has a lot of us, and I'm using us, gracefully, because this is a collective conversation, who drains us? Who pulls and tugs at our energy too much? Who expects everything from us and pours nothing back into us, right? I just said at the beginning of the live stream that a huge part of my revelation and my learning through Mercury retrograde was coming to the realization that I have a lot of people in my life who expect a lot of me and don't acknowledge my humanity, right? And so I have to change that bullshit. Because y'all motherfuckers, I love y'all down, but y'all not going to fucking kill me. All right? So who drains you? Who pours into you? Who drains you without helping you refill, right? Does your current community support the person that you're becoming? I'm going to repeat that. Does your current community support the person that you are becoming? Sometimes we can stagnate in that Five of Pentacles way because we are surrounded by people that don't want to see us change, right? They're comfortable with their scarcity and their poverty mindset. So who the fuck are we to elevate and become something different, to take up space, to move differently? Okay? These are all things to really reflect over and sit with while we have this full moon in Aquarius, okay? So evaluating your friendships, evaluating your relationships in general, evaluating your collaborations, professional networks. I'm gonna keep talking, but I'm gonna turn my camera off because my underwire is okay. All right, we're back. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your grace. All right. Another thing, again, with one of the themes of the full moon in Aquarius being freedom, we are called to kind of look at and interrogate what is necessary for us to have freedom, right? And freedom requires responsibility. Freedom requires responsibility. Aquarius is often associated with freedom, but freedom without responsibility becomes avoidance, right? Freedom without you guys heard me say in What About Your Friends that I'm sick and I'm at my wit's end with people who want villages but don't know how to be a villager, right? And what I mean by that is that there are people who want support, want love, want connection, but they don't want to give that back, right? And yes, you want to be free. You want to move the way you want to, but there's a lot of responsibility that comes with freedom, right? What are the habits that are keeping you stuck? What are the habits that are keeping you stuck? Who do you have to be to change those habits or to let those habits go? What are the beliefs that are limiting your future? What are you ready to release so that you can move forward, right? When we talk about release in terms of full moons, it doesn't always mean that you have to walk away from people, right? And I think that's a fucked up thing that we believe in this individualist society. We think that in order to have big change, we have to abandon people, we have to walk away from people. No, sometimes you got to let go of your old identity. You got to let go of outdated goals. You have to let go of a way or a false belief of how you show up in the world that is not in integrity with how people experience you, right? You have to let go of a fear of rejection or the need for everyone's approval, right? That's what I mean by responsibility. Sometimes you have to take responsibility for what you actually need to let go of instead of throwing away people or throwing away the thing that is easy, because it allows you to move in self-righteousness. And self-righteousness is not freedom. Self-righteousness is a prison, okay? Another thing, Aquarius is the sign of vision, right? It's the sign of being able to see the future and being able to predict trends, okay? So this is a time where we need to be thinking about the vision for our future, right? And this is why we have to think about the habits and the people and the environments that can't follow us, because we're thinking about the future, okay? And with Aquarius being future oriented, I want everybody to think about this. What if you weren't afraid of disappointing anyone else? What would your life look like a year from now? If you were making decisions based off of what was best for you, what felt right, what helped you be in alignment with your purpose, and not thinking about whether or not it's going to disappoint other people, how do you think your life would be different in a year? I think that's a really important thing to interrogate, right? And I say this because it's really important that we think beyond our immediate problems when we are dealing with a full moon in Aquarius, because that's what's going to help us reconnect with our long-term vision, right? You could be dealing with some sort of inconvenience or difficulty or problem that feels all-consuming in this moment, right? This is why the earth signs had a hard fucking time during Mercury retrograde, because everything felt like it was all-consuming, right? But those feelings will distort your vision and make it hard for you to think about your long-term future. So again, if you didn't have to worry about disappointing people, if you didn't have to worry about your immediate problems right now, who would you be and how would you move in order to secure the future that you want for yourself a year from now, right? So I think it's important for us to recognize what's complete so that we can have room for what's next instead of hyperfixating on what is not working and allowing that to make us give up, okay? So some spiritual practices we should prioritize for the full moon. Journaling, absolutely. I think at any time there's a full moon, journaling and releasing what needs to be let go of, what may be clogging or clouding your mind, clouding your vision, is extremely important, okay? Also work on gratitude, right? So I mentioned that one of the things that can happen is we can get so wrapped up in our immediate problems that we can't see long term. So practice gratitude to reorient your vision while this full moon is in Aquarius, okay? I'm going to share 2 journal prompts that I think are really, really helpful. And if you want to use some of the questions that I've already mentioned, you can use those as well. Those questions also make really good journal prompts. But one is, where am I seeking approval instead of authenticity? Where am I seeking approval instead of authenticity? Okay. And then the second one is, what vision for my future deserves more of my attention? What vision for my future deserves more of my attention? Okay. Before we wrap up and I talk about this Saturn retrograde that's going to be starting on Sunday, which, girl, it's a lot. I want to just say this about the full moon in Aquarius that's coming on the 29th, okay? Aquarius full moon reminds us that we don't become free by rejecting everyone around us, right? I think that is a really fucked up reality TV programming way of moving through the world that we have internalized that does not work. We think that we got to fall out with everybody. Everything got to be a big ass blow up, and that's how we make change. No, that makes disruption. That causes chaos. And a lot of us confuse disruption for change, okay? We become free by living in alignment with our deepest values. We become free by having an awareness of our purpose and making sure that our actions and our habits are in alignment and in integrity with that purpose. That's freedom. That's freedom. And that's what Aquarius is here to teach us, okay? Surrounding ourselves with people who encourage us to grow instead of who want us to stay stagnant in the interest of our comfort is deeply important. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is stop trying to fit in and allow yourself to move beyond a life that you may have already outgrown. And that's what the Aquarius full moon is here to really teach us and to highlight for us, okay? Now let's talk about the full moon, not the full moon, Saturn's retrograde in Aries. But before that, let me pour my sparkling water. I wanted to pour it before I got on camera, but I accidentally froze it a little too much. I hope it thawed. Let me see. I don't think it did. Nope, it didn't. Nope, and it exploded. Okay. Me and my lack of patience. I am uncategorically impatient for a Taurus. I really am. But when I learned that my rising was Leo, I was like, okay, that makes sense. That I want what I want now energy is very Leo. Okay. So Saturn is going retrograde in Aries Sunday afternoon. And it is going to stay retrograde until December 10th. Okay? 5 months is a long ass time. And so that's why I wanted us to talk about this placement. Anytime we have a transit that goes on for weeks or months, I'm going to make it a priority to talk about it, right? Because Mercury retrogrades tend to last like 3 to 4 weeks, which feels forever, but it ain't that long, right? Anything that's going to be in your life for several months has a big impact, okay? And we know Saturn, if you were in charm school, then you would know, because we talked about Saturn in relationship to love. Keep your eyes out for that class that I'm going to be adding to my website over the weekend. It's a 2-part series around astrology and love. And in the second one, I go over some of the unpopular placements that actually teach you a lot about how to create lasting love. And one of them is Saturn, right? Saturn has become one of my favorite planets, even though everybody don't like Saturn. And they don't like Saturn because it's the planet of discipline. And we live in a society that conflates discipline with punishment, right? Saturn is here to discipline you until you learn how to discipline yourself. It is here to teach you about how you should be strengthened or strengthen yourself through challenge, right? So again, we have 2 placements that are calling us to confront the ways in which comfort has become a prison for us, right? Aquarius, have you gotten comfortable with shrinking at the cost of your own personal freedom and authenticity? Saturn, right? What are the ways in which your lack of discipline is costing you the opportunity to be a leader in your own life? Okay? So we have Saturn going retrograde in Aries, the planet of I am, the planet of the sun. Okay? I want you guys to ask yourself, where in my life am I waiting for permission instead of taking responsibility? What are the parts of my life where I'm waiting for somebody to give me permission, to tell me that it's okay, instead of actually taking charge and taking responsibility? Okay? I want you to think about that question as we go through our conversation about Saturn and Aries. Okay? Saturn is not a planet of punishment. I really want us to evolve beyond that misunderstanding, because when we look at it that way, it really limits the blessings and the benefits that we can receive from it. Okay? I love Saturn. I have it tattooed on me. Oh, that's so dope. Okay. Yeah, it's my favorite planet. It's my favorite planet. I know people think it's supposed to be Venus because I'm a Taurus, but I love Saturn. I love Saturn and I love Mercury. Those are my two favorite. But it's not a planet of punishment. Saturn represents discipline. It represents karma, right? And what is karma other than the results of what we put out into the world, right? Which is a form of responsibility in and of itself. Saturn is the planet of maturity, remembering that Saturn rules Capricorn, and Capricorn is the father of the zodiac, right? And fathers or paternal figures in our life are meant to give us lessons around maturation, right? It is also the planet of boundaries, right? When you have a lot of Saturn disruption, it's going to show you where you lack boundaries in your life. It's also the planet of time, right? It's going to be a timekeeper, right? That Saturn energy is what's going to be knocking at your door and being like, okay, these are the questions you asked yourself 3 years ago. Why have we not made progress, right? And again, that can sound heavy, but it's not a punishment. That conversation that happens about time with Saturn is deeply important, okay? It's also about wisdom earned through experience, okay? Wisdom earned through experience. And that goes back to that connection with time. We should not be the same people in 2026 that we were in 2022 or 2023. We should have garnered some sort of wisdom based on our lived experiences that shows up in our action and how we show up in the world. And these are, again, lessons connected to Saturn, right? You have Saturn in Aries, and Aries represents identity, that energy of I am. It is courage and initiation, right? With it being the first zodiac sign of, the first zodiac sign of the wheel, it is the initiator. It is the shit starter. It gets things popping, right? Aries is also independence as well as leadership. It is also action, okay? So we have the planet of responsibility and discipline going retrograde in the sign of identity and action. Hey, Nicole, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. When Saturn retrogrades in Aries, we are not being asked to stop. We're being asked to become more intentional about how we lead our lives, right? Again, retrogrades are refinement and reflection, right? It only appears that the planet is going backwards. But what it actually is, what a retrograde is an opportunity for us to reflect over what needs refinement and revision in our life. So Saturn retrograde in Aries is an opportunity for us to be more intentional about how we lead ourselves, our self-direction. Okay? So again, this is going to start Sunday afternoon, July 26th. It's going to last until the morning of December 2026. Okay? Now, there's often a shadow period before retrograde, so that's what we're currently in right now. So if you're hearing the description I gave and you're thinking to yourself, I've already been confronting that, that's already been coming up for me. Yeah, that typically happens during a shadow phase, right? Some of these themes are starting to emerge gradually to prepare us and get us ready for what is ahead of us, okay? So one of the first themes that we are going to be dealing with while Saturn is retrograde in Aries is how to engage in accountability without shame. Some of us run from accountability because we think, again, we think Saturn is the planet of punishment. We think accountability is a form of punishment. And we have that belief because a lot of times when people say you need to be held accountable, what they mean is you need to suffer some sort of revenge. Like, I've had to learn this the hard way with people throwing that word at me. And then because I'm a nerd and I like words, and then I define it for them to get a fucking attitude, right? But accountability is not a form of punishment, and it should be something that we can engage in without shame, right? So where have you blamed circumstances in your life? You blame circumstances for a lack of action or a lack of personal leadership. Where have you blamed your family, right? I have had some really painful and tough conversations with clients, both in terms of my spiritual offerings and in terms of coaching, where I've had to be like, look, you got to stop using your children as an excuse. You got to stop using your mom or your dad as an excuse for why you show up the way you are now. People have people in their families that have left an imprint on them, and these people have been dead for literal decades, and they're talking about them like they're in the next room, right? Where have you blamed family for your personal circumstances or your habits or actions? Where have you blamed money, whether it's the overflow or the lack of, right? And that's something I'm going to talk about in the next prosperity clinic, right? People do all this work to get money and to accumulate, and then once they have it, they just get wrapped up in this more money, more problems thing, and then they complain about having the money, and it's like, that was a blessing you called in. You sound crazy, right? Where have you blamed fear? Where has fear become an excuse that has victimized you into not taking the risk and taking the actions you need to have leadership over your life? Those are all things that Saturn in Aries is really going to force us to confront over these next 5 months, okay? So again, because Aries is an energy of the initiator, it is action, it is the current present moment. It's always going to ask you throughout this period of time, what can I do right now? What can I do today? What's the change that I can make in this moment, right? Because the more that you can release guilt from your past about what you didn't know, about who you couldn't be, about what you didn't have, the more you can release that guilt, the easier it is for you to reclaim your agency and be tuned to the present moment, okay? So some things you should ask yourself in these next 5 months: what responsibilities have I been avoiding? What have I been running from? What have I been avoiding? What difficult conversations need to happen that I've been running from? That I've been acting too sensitive, too cowardly, too weak, too wounded, too hurt to have, right? What decision have I postponed? What decision am I putting off because I've told myself it's too big, or I told myself I'm not enough, or I told myself I don't have enough information or evidence? Those are all things we should be thinking about, right? The second thing, redefining your strength. And I love this. I love this so much. A lot of people confuse independence with isolation. They confuse confidence with being loud and arrogant and taking up hella space, right? Confidence is quiet. I learned that when I was a Girl Scout. I'm serious. I learned that when I was a Girl Scout. And a lot of people confuse leadership with control, right? And I had to learn this the hard way when a lot of corporate environments. People want to become bosses because people think that being a boss is about being able to control people and to dominate people. But being a boss is about being able to lead people. And most of the time, the most effective way to lead people is not through bullying them, it's through motivating them. There's a huge difference, right? Saturn is going to strip away any performance that has you misunderstanding those terms that I just mentioned, okay? It's going to make you confront what actually makes you feel strong authentically, not you engaging in a false bravado-based performance of strength, but what actually makes you feel strong. Think about the strength card in the tarot, right? That little tiny woman next to that lion may not meet a lot of people's definition of strength, but the fact that she's able to soothe that savage beast, that is strength. That is leadership. That is charisma, okay? If you are somebody who struggles to stay calm under pressure, that is going to be tapped on and exacerbated under this planet because that is something you need to learn. Pressure is a part of life. Difficulty is a part of life. Conflict is a part of life. How do you remain calm and clear-headed so that you can make decisions in the face of pressure, right? And also, if you've either been leading through domination or you are in situations where you deal with people who think that domination is the same thing as leadership, those relationships will be tapped on and touched on while Saturn is in Aries, okay? The third theme, healing immature Mars energy. Healing your immature Mars energy, right? We know that Aries is ruled by Mars. And when we deal with healthy Aries energy, we deal with healthy Mars energy. We are dealing with an energy of being assertive, being protective, being decisive, and being courageous. Think about the Emperor in the tarot, right? Unhealthy Mars or reversal, debilitated Mars is quick to anger. They are full of rage. They are impulsive and defensive, right? A wounded divine masculine does not know how to emotionally regulate, and they don't know how to make decisions from strategy because most of their decisions come from impulse. That is immature Aries energy, right? Being deeply combative and easily offended is wounded Mars, wounded Aries energy, okay? So Saturn retrograde is here to ask us to mature our relationship with anger and action. I will never shame anger. Anger is a part of the human experience. It's not something to run from, but it should motivate you towards action instead of causing unnecessary conflict and strife and destruction in your life. So again, with Aries being ruled by Mars, Mars, the god of war, our relationship to anger and whether or not we are able to productively engage with it gets tapped on while Saturn is in retrograde in Aries, okay? The fourth theme, and I talk about this a lot, understanding that boundaries are spiritual. I remember, and if you guys listen to my podcast, I know I haven't done one in almost 3 years. And I will get back to it soon, I promise. I'm not just saying that because it sounds good. You guys know that there's a woman that I make reference to in my podcast that I call Single Black Female. Part of how she would misrepresent me to other people or how she would recruit flying monkeys and talk about me to other people, I just don't understand why she has so many boundaries. I mean, I don't have boundaries. I'm not a person that has all these boundaries. Her life reflected that. And I'll just leave it there because this is not a regurgitation of my podcast, right? Boundaries are spiritual hygiene. And I think that if you are somebody who is deeply committed to your spiritual path, not in an aesthetic way, not in a performative way, if you are somebody who is actually committed to your spiritual path, understanding the fact that boundaries are spiritual hygiene will transform you and transform the way you move and what you put up with in your life, okay? Many people think that boundaries are emotional. They're not. They're not. Boundaries are thought out. They are not impulsive or reactive. There are people that will state from a place of impulse and reaction that they're setting a boundary, but no, that's you being reactive. Boundaries are thought out. They are deliberate. You come to them through intense interrogation and conversation with spirit. Boundaries are spiritual. They're meant to be spiritual, okay? So without boundaries, we deal with a bunch of energy leaks, right? So like I talked about earlier when we were mentioning full moon, people will drain and pull all of your energy. We deal with money leaks, making money and not understanding where it goes ever. We deal with time leaks. That's where you can literally look up and 3 years of your life have gone by and there's been no movement, no change, no progression. Okay. And then leaks in our peace, right? Never having an emotionally regulated nervous system, always being tired, never having any joy for yourself. Literally, the moment your eyes open in the morning and you wake up, you just are full of dread before you even prayed and got the day started, right? Those are all the results of not having boundaries. That's what I mean when I say that boundaries are spiritual. So please let Saturn's retrograde in Aries. If you don't learn anything else, let it really bring home for you how and why boundaries are necessary and how they are spiritual. So that gets me to the fifth theme of this particular retrograde in Aries. Spiritual leadership is going to be one of the major themes that a lot of us deal with, right? And this is something especially for the healers, the coaches, the community leaders, the therapists, anybody working in a service capacity. Yes, I consider therapists to be healers. You guys, everybody that I know who works in mental health, you guys are literally doing the Lord's work, right? You may not whip out cards or divination tools. You may not have, homemade Florida waters and potions and shit. But if you work in the mental health field, you do spiritual work. And that's why I talk about you all in the same breath that I talk about healers. Anybody who works in a service position, the theme of spiritual leadership is going to come up in your life, okay? And what I mean by spiritual leadership is, are you practicing what you preach? It doesn't matter if you are having sessions with clients and you are encouraging them towards sobriety, if when you get off the phone or you get off the Zoom or when you leave your office, the first thing you do is let alcohol touch your lips. It matters none if you're talking to people about healthy eating habits and you ain't seen a vegetable since the last full moon, right? Like are you practicing what you preach? How can I teach people about spiritual hygiene and spiritual regimen when my altar is dirty? It's not. My spirits do not play that shit. But I'm just using those as examples. Are you practicing what you preach? That is spiritual leadership. Walking it like you talk it. Okay? Are you building something sustainable? Are you seeking purpose over applause? You guys hear me talk all the time about aesthetic priestesses and aesthetic spirituality. There are so many people who are wrapped up in the performance of God, the performance of spirituality. And then they want to say that things don't work because they're not living it authentically. If you are somebody who's just performing your spirituality and it's not actually showing up in your own life as a leader, that is going to be brought to the surface during this retrograde, okay? Where do you need to be having more integrity with your spiritual walk? Those are all things that are brought to the surface. Saturn, again, it's discipline. And what is discipline without consistency? Saturn rewards consistency. Who are you when no one's looking? Are you out here teaching people about Ori and you have not washed your hair in months and it's matted? There's an inconsistency. You're out of integrity, right? Are you talking to people about spiritual hygiene and you haven't mopped your floor in weeks? There's a lack of consistency there, right? Saturn rewards consistency more than charisma. Saturn don't care about charisma. Who are you when no one's looking? And how consistent are you? That's what Saturn rewards, okay? I have one more theme to get through, and then we'll wrap up, I promise. Again, now you see why I started with the full moon? Saturn is going to have us busy. Saturn is about to have us really, really busy with this retrograde, okay? The sixth theme, the final theme, we're going to be made to focus or confront the karma of self-abandonment. If you have actively gone out of your way to deprioritize yourself in your own life, if you are living a life where you have forgot that you are the main character of your own life and everybody else has priority over you, Saturn is going to bring that to the surface and make you confront it while it's in Aries, while it's retrograde in Aries, okay? One of Aries' deepest lessons is learning how to honor the self. I know that people believe that Aries is selfish, and in its immaturity, it can be. But one thing that I can say, especially because I have a lot of Aries women in my life, one of my sister best friends is an Aries woman. And then I have literally 2 younger sisters that are Aries, right? One thing that I can say about them is that they know themselves and that they prioritize themselves. And they do so unapologetically, okay? So this is a retrograde that's really going to make you look at the areas where you have betrayed or neglected yourself, okay? Where do you continually choose comfort over truth, right? What feels comfortable, what feels safe, as opposed to what is true and needs to be confronted, okay? Where are you making yourself smaller? Those are all things that get highlighted because Saturn in Aries is going to force you to deal with any habits related to self-abandonment, okay? What it's really doing is forcing us to stop negotiating away our values for acceptance. Stop negotiating away our purpose for acceptance, right? So those are some things that come up. So again, some of the themes we need to be aware of and put to the fore while Saturn is in retrograde in Aries is developing spiritual discipline. If you lack spiritual discipline, start working on it now. Strengthening your personal boundaries and understanding that personal boundaries are about spiritual hygiene, okay? Learning patience, mostly with yourself. Again, going back to the accountability conversation, some of you guys lack patience with yourself because if you make a mistake, it puts you in shame and guilt spirals, and we can't be productive. You cannot learn if you are afraid to make a mistake. Part of learning is not getting it right and learning from how you fucked it up, okay? So you're going to have to learn how to be patient with yourself while Saturn is retrograde in Aries, right? Saturn retrograde in Aries is here to teach us how to live with greater integrity. It's here to help us build lasting confidence instead of chasing validation. And it's, again, at its core, it's going to make us take responsibility for our own personal healing. If you have been in a position where you have made your personal healing and development somebody else's responsibility, oh my God. That is one of the biggest things that I have to help people understand in my mentorship. I'm here to teach you. I'm here to guide you. But when it comes to your own spiritual walk, there's a lot of shit that you have to be doing outside of the time that you spend with me over Zoom or in a fucking one-on-one, right? So those are things that we got to really be honest about. Are we taking charge and being responsible, being leaders in our own spiritual discipline? Or are we just throwing money at people and expecting them to fix our problems? People are here to guide you. You fix you. You fix you with the knowledge that they give you, right? Again, Saturn doesn't ask if we're gifted. It's going to ask us whether or not we're dependable. I think you guys have heard me say before that I'm challenging myself and teaching myself to stop using the language of spiritual gifts and use the language of spiritual abilities, right? We nurture an ability. A gift you can forget, you can lose, you can take for granted because you assume that it's just something somebody gave to you randomly. An ability is something that you nurture and you sustain, right? And it makes you have a completely different relationship with it. But that is, Saturn in Aries. So I'm going to, like I did with the full moon in Aquarius, I'm going to leave you with 2 journal prompts that you can use. The first one is, what responsibility keeps showing up in my life? What is the responsibility that keeps showing up in your life? And then the second one is, and I love this. I'm going to give you 3. Let me give you 3. I'm going to give you the one I love, and then I'm going to wrap up with another one. What kind of ancestor am I becoming? Such an important question. What kind of ancestor are you becoming? The spiritual integrity that you have and the discipline that you enact in this life is going to have a huge impact on the kind of ancestor that you become. So that's an important question to ask yourself while Saturn is retrograde in Aries. And then again, I'm going to give you a third one. How do I define courage? How do I define courage? For me, a huge way that I define courage, and I've had people play me about this, it is courageous to be calm in the face of somebody who has decided and who is dedicated to be emotionally dysregulated in a conversation. And you guys know what I mean. You guys, we've all had conversations with people where it's clear that somebody is just hell bent on hurting your feelings to the point where they're not even really listening to what you're saying. For me, courage is having the strength to not do tit for tat. And that's been a hard definition of courage to get to because idiots will think you pussy. Pardon my language. Idiots will think that fat meat's greasy when they treat you that way. But for me, that's courage. And the reason why I define it as courage is because it puts me in a position where I'm not saying things that I regret. I'm not saying things that I can't take back. I can stand 10 toes on anything that comes out of my mouth when I remain calm in the face of somebody who is dedicated to being emotionally dysregulated. Okay? It may be completely different for you, and that is totally fine. But as long as you interrogate and challenge yourself to come up with your own definition of courage during this retrograde, you've done the right thing. Okay? We are now at the end of the breakdown of both placements, and this is where I take questions from the audience. I have a spread for the Saturn in Aries retrograde, and I have a spread for the full moon in Aquarius, okay? And I am happy to answer those for people who are willing to send a love offering. If you are only interested in one transit, that's totally fine. Send 1111 and let me know in the comments which one you want me to pull for. If you want me to pull for both for you, send, 2222 and say I want both in the comments, okay? Now, while people are deciding whether or not they want a reading, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a few updates on some things that I'm working on, okay? I want you all to know it's the 23rd, right? So we have, we got just a little over a week left with the monthly specials for July. And I'm running 2 monthly specials. One is the Golden Shadows reading, which is my financial health and wellness reading. And the other offer for the month of July is my Rich Spirit Body Wash, which is on sale for $33.33 until August 1st. Okay? If you are interested in taking advantage of either of those monthly specials, make sure you do so before August 1st, because after August 1st, they go back to their original pricing. Okay? The next round of Rich Spirit Prosperity Ritual will be taking place on August 10th. It's going to begin August 10th and go until August 14th. If you know that you have big financial breakthrough that you want to see happen before the year is over, if you know that there are some blocks you need to remove financially so that you can see progress around a particular financial goal, I strongly encourage you to join us for the Rich Spirit Prosperity Ritual. Now, if you aren't available during those dates and you still want to benefit, the body wash does come with its own ritual that you can do on your own. But if you want to benefit from the in-person group ritual, the Bible says wherever two or more are gathered, there I am, right? Right, like that. There's an energy and a strengthening of God's blessings when you do group ritual. And that's why I do Rich Spirit frequently. So if you want to benefit from that group collective ritual and you are not already a part of the group, the intake group where you can get information about how to sign up, go ahead and click on that link in the description, okay? You guys probably have noticed that I've stopped being shy about being a life coach, and that I've started talking about and advertising that more here on the channel, okay? So I am offering a 4-hour, one-day workshop called the Next Chapter Workshop, and that is going to be happening on Sunday, August 23rd, okay? If you are one of those people who felt like, you were hit by the description of the placements and you are finding yourself dealing with particular forms of stagnation, repeating difficult cycles, you need support with, breaking into a new chapter in your life, I strongly encourage you to join me for the Next Chapter Workshop, right? It is a 4-hour intensive where we will be able to identify the patterns that are keeping you stuck. I give you concrete strategies that help you come to those realizations, and you walk away with a blueprint around how to change your life, okay? That is the 4-hour workshop on the 23rd, and that is a little bit of a taste or a teaser into the Next Chapter method, which is my 12-week coaching intensive. It is a 12-week coaching intensive, which means that everybody who participates not only gets weekly coaching one-on-one from me, they also get weekly group coaching. So it's going to be a cohort, right? You get a workbook that I prepared that you can track your own progress with, along with tailored personal assignments to help you, right? I believe that you can change your life in 90 days. And I believe that not because it sounds good. I know from my own personal experience. A part of my life coaching training was that I was put in a 90-day transformation program. And in that 90 days, that's when I came to the revelation that I needed to move. And I shortly after moved cross country. I drafted the first draft of a novel when I hadn't written in years. I reconnected with several people in my family and healed relationships. Like, I literally changed my life in 90 days. And based off of my training and my experience with that program, I have created a 12-week coaching intensive that I will be rolling out and offering to people. So join the chat, join the intake group, not only to learn about the workshop, but if you're curious about the 12-week intensive, in the weeks leading up to the workshop, I will give more information about that as well. That's everything that I'm working on. So Dulcinea wants both. Thank you, Dulcinea. Nicole wants both as well. I'm going to start with Dulcinea first, and then I will go to Nicole next. If there's anyone else that wants either both readings or one or the other, go ahead and send your love offering now. You can send it to me via PayPal or Cash App, either one that works well for you. One of you all has my personal number, so you sent it Apple Pay. That's totally fine as well. But I'm going to go ahead and I will start with Dulcinea. Dulcinea, we're going to do your Saturn reading first, okay? Tarot of Divine. We'll do Tarot of Divine. Actually, I didn't burn my Palo. So I'm going to go ahead and burn my Palo, then we'll do Dulcinea, then we'll do Nicole. If there's anyone else who wants a reading, go ahead and submit your love offering now and put in the comments which of the readings you want or if you want both, okay? So I don't know if you guys can tell when I first got on, I was a little late and a little flustered. I'm telling myself, I almost burned down my house. It's not funny, but I was trying to do a simmer pot and do my makeup at the same time, and I didn't realize that I had it on high. and it overflowed and got a little smoky in here. But you know, we're fine. We're all good. I made it. I made it. Okay, so we're going to start with Saturn in Aries for Dulcinea. Sisters, angels, ascended masters, spirits will walk with me. What is the Saturn retrograde in Aries meant to teach Dulcinea about her inner authority? Where does she need to take more responsibility? Where does she need to stand more in integrity and courage? What is the Saturn retrograde in Aries here to teach her? Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. As I'm doing Dulcinea's reading, I want to remind everybody, if you are here and you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Honestly, it's the easiest way to keep up with me. I know that there are a few of you who are here from Instagram. I can no longer go live on Instagram, so all of my live streams are going to be here on YouTube, right? So it's the easiest way to catch up with me. It's the easiest way to get notifications when I do go live. And I do want to get the channel to 500 before the summer is over. So you subscribing, you sharing these videos with people in your life that you think would benefit from this information is tremendously helpful for me in terms of getting closer to that goal, okay? So Dulcinea, in the first position, which asks, what are you being called to take responsibility for? We have the Two of Cups, right? And I love the Two of Cups. It's a relationship card. And it can be romantic relationship or business partnership, anything that is closeness, any relationships that call, that need or are based on reciprocity, right? It's a very Libra kind of energy. So for you, you are being called to take responsibility for the relationships in your life where either nurturing the relationships that are reciprocal and being responsible for seeing clearly and being honest about the relationships that are non-reciprocal, right? So where are you pouring over and over again into someone only for them to not pour back into you, right? And we know that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So rather than being hurt or angered by it, this is a call for you to really take responsibility for that and to start prioritizing the people who are pouring into you in the ways in which you need and deserve, okay? What inner strength is Saturn asking you to develop? I love this. We have Saturn retrograde asking you to focus on the energy of Saturn with the Devil card, right? Saturn, the Devil card is Capricorn, right? So there are some things you have a negative attachment to, and those negative attachments show up in a way that's addictive, right? And when I say show up in a way that's addictive, it doesn't mean literal addictions. Like, I don't think you do coke or something, right? It's not that. It's more about what are the habits that you've gotten overly attached to and almost obsessive about, and how do they keep you stagnant? So this is a call for you to have the discipline of Capricorn and the ruthlessness to personal development and inner maturation of Capricorn, so that you don't let negative attachments hold you hostage any longer, okay? That's the inner strength that Saturn in Aries really wants you to develop, okay? What will become possible if you embrace this lesson? It will help you stop crying over the past. It'll help you stop crying over spilled milk. There's a phrase that I wrote in a prayer recently, and I wept after I said it. I'm not going to cry now. And I'm going to share it with you and whoever's here on this live. I asked my maman to help me stop worshiping closed doors, right? So I'm going to share that with you, because when I see the Five of Cups, that's what I think about. I think about a person who is worshiping old doors, knocking on old doors in that very Maddie from season 2 of Euphoria kind of way, right? What you get from this Saturn retrograde that helps you tremendously is it highlights the spaces where you keep worshiping or knocking on closed doors to the detriment of the full cups and the present blessings that you have. Okay? Now we're going to look into what the full moon in Aquarius has in store for you. Let me know if that reading resonated with you, Dulcinea. So this is about the freedom you're embracing in the future, okay? Ancestors, angels, ascended masters, spirits that walk with me, and elevated ancestors. What is the freedom that Dulcinea is growing into? What freedom will enter her life as a result of the full moon in Aquarius? Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. Again, if there is anyone who would like either a Saturn in Aries or a full moon in Aquarius reading or both, go ahead and submit your love offering now and type in the comments which of the reading or you would like, or if you want both, okay? After Dulcinea, we got Nicole, and then if there's anyone else, they will be in the queue after Nicole. In position 1, which talks about what you are ready to release, I love this for you, but it's a hard thing to do as a Virgo. Ace of Swords. It's really easy to tell yourself that you don't know enough, that you have to learn more, that you have to wait for new knowledge before you take on a new beginning. That's not true. You know enough. You know enough about what you want from your life. You know enough about the kind of freedom that you want. So instead of waiting for new wisdom or information to penetrate your psyche, to change your thoughts, just take action, okay? What truth is being illuminated by this full moon? Some of your confusion is chosen, and the confusion is chosen because you are afraid of the big decisions, right? So a huge part of the truth that's going to be eliminated by this full moon is what the chosen indecision costs you, right? In terms of stagnation, in terms of having found yourself in situations where you feel put upon that could have been avoided just by you being a little bit more decisive, okay? How can you move toward greater authenticity and purpose? By not caring. It's possible to have people in your life that love you that still want you to be small, not because they're actively hating on you, but because they don't understand your elevation. And there's a part of you that keeps trying to receive approval from people who were never meant to understand your elevation. It doesn't mean that you don't love them. It doesn't mean that they don't love you. It doesn't mean that you don't respect them, and vice versa. But you have to be so dedicated to your elevation that you're not listening to the people who are, and I hate to use this language of beneath you, but people that you have to leave behind a little bit in order to move forward, right? 7 of Wands, being dedicated to moving forward, unapologetically, sorry, not sorry, right? So that is what the full moon in Aquarius is here to teach you about your freedom journey. I hope that these readings were helpful for you. Thank you so much for trusting me, Dulcinea. Next, we have Nicole, who also wants both readings. Again, if there's anybody who wants either a Saturn in Aries reading or who wants a full moon in Aquarius reading, please send your love offering to my Cash App or my PayPal that are scrolling below. If you want one, just send 1111. If you want both, send 2222. If you are in a blessed position to send more than that, the generosity is appreciated. But and also, if you want a question answered but you don't have a full 1111, send what you can. I'll keep that between me and you. Just send something. Again, it's the energetic exchange, right? So Nicole, we're going to start with the full moon in Aquarius for you, and then we'll wrap up with Saturn and Aries, okay? Ancestors, angels, ascended masters, spirits that walk with me, and elevated ancestors. What wisdom does Nicole need about the full moon in Aquarius? What is this full moon in Aquarius? Here to teach her about personal authenticity and her freedom journey. Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. You know what, Nicole, is really interesting. I would encourage you to meditate over the High Priestess card from one of your tarot decks, because I feel like the last couple times I've read for you, the High Priestess has come up. And in this particular spread, she comes up in position 1, which is answering the question of what are you ready to release? You need to release the understanding that, how do I say this? I'm going to use myself as an example very, very quickly. And I know you guys are probably like, she's always talking about herself. Oh, well, I have a Leo rising, get used to it. When I was first in spiritual mentorship, once I realized that spirit shows up for me in a very individual way that doesn't look like the women around me, it helped me get out of my own way, right? What does that mean for you? In terms of what you have to be ready to release, you have to get comfortable with the very particular and idiosyncratic way that your spirits reveal wisdom to you that's behind the veil. I've said this to you before, your ancestors are super present with you. And I think sometimes you get these nudges and you have these feelings, but you're still not fully trusting that that's them talking to you. So what you have to release is this belief that there's something more, or that you have to learn something additional, right? Of course, there are practices and processes and procedures, like the Hierophant, like structure of it you have to learn. But you're a lot more intuitive than I think you fully give yourself credit for. And the belief that you're not is something that you have to release, right? Release your doubts. There you go. You helped me struggle through saying that. I appreciate you tremendously. What truth is being illuminated by this full moon? Again, those doubts sometimes make you not fully see the information that's being presented to you clearly. So the more you can release those doubts, the easier it'll be for you to trust the downloads and the messages that the spirits that walk with you are giving you, okay? How can you move toward greater authenticity and purpose? By being in the present moment. This is an Aries energy card. Knight of Wands is intuition and instinct and impulse and going with what feels right and leaning into joy, right? So the more that you can be rooted in the present moment and what's happening in the present moment for you, the easier it's going to be for you, right? To really stand in your personal freedom. Okay, so that is the full moon in Aries reading for you, Nicole. Now we're going to go into the full moon in Aquarius, my apologies. Now we're going to look what the Saturn retrograde has to teach you, okay? Ancestors, angels, ascended masters, spirits that walk with me, my elevated ancestors. What is Saturn's retrograde in Aries over these next 5 months here to teach Nicole? What is the wisdom that is here to give her, to pour into her? How does it help her in terms of being able to take leadership in her life? Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. The first reading was very enlightening and it resonates. I'm glad to hear that, Nicole. I'm glad to hear that. Okay. In the position, it's interesting because tonight, several cards that I get for you are coming back up again. And you see me shuffling, so you know I'm not doing anything fishy. What you are being called to take responsibility for is this next chapter of your life. This is a very much a celebratory chapter of your life where you get to lean on and trust and stand on all of the wisdom that has been accumulated from the past chapter of your life and the experiences, the wisdom that has come from those experiences. You are entering a time of celebration. You're already in a time of celebration, right? So taking responsibility for the fact that this is where you are. And what I mean by taking responsibility for it is that prioritizing it, honoring it, and not taking on other people's troubles as distraction, right? Because the debilitation of the World card is somebody who is finding reasons and distractions to stall themselves from entering this chapter in this period of celebration and acknowledgement of the wisdom that they've garnered, right? What inner strength is Saturn asking you to develop? You already have resiliency, but some things are not worth your resiliency. Okay? So the Nine of Wands being the wounded warrior is coming up to say, okay, you need to develop a strength of, instead of feeling like you have to endure or take on fights, you need to develop the strength of protecting yourself so that people don't even pull on you in a way that causes you to dip into your endurance bag, right? What will become possible if you embrace this lesson? It allows you to, again, move forward, have safe passage, be focused on your own personal development, be focused on the lessons, the blessings that the next journey of your life have in store for you, right? It gives you an opportunity to just be open to the wisdom and the guidance that the spirits have for you that brings you into a next chapter and brings you into a much more prosperous, beautiful, abundant environment, okay? So that is what I see is in store for you during this Saturn retrograde in Aries, okay? I don't see anyone else having asked for a question or having submit a love offering. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for the night because I don't think anyone else wants a reading, and I'm not going to push it if you guys don't want it. What I will do is that I will have this available as an option on Sunday in case, anybody goes back and watches this live stream and decides, oh, I wish I would have gotten a reading, right? So on Sunday, we'll have it open for both of these readings as well as general questions, okay? I just want to give you all a heads up. I know you guys are used to me going live at 7:30 p.m. EST on Sunday. This Sunday, I'm going live a little earlier, okay? So I'll be live at 5 p.m. EST, okay? So we'll be live 2.5 hours earlier, and then we'll go back to the 7:30 schedule next week. But this Sunday, be here early, okay? I'll be here 5 p.m. EST if you want to tune in live for the weekly wisdom reading, okay? Get your golden shadow readings before the offer is over. Get your Rich Beard body wash before the offer is over if you're interested in it and you want it. If you are interested in learning more about the Rich Beard prosperity ritual, join the link in the description. We start on August 10th. The deadline to sign up is August 8th, okay? Everybody have an amazing night. I hope that this session was helpful for you. Put questions in the comments. I do read the comments on my YouTube, okay? So if there was anything about either transit that you're curious about that I didn't answer, make sure you put a question in the comment. Again, make sure you like and subscribe and share this video if you care, okay? Love you all. Take care. Have a beautiful and blessed weekend, and I will see you all Sunday. Goodbye.